People think my job was just buying cars. It wasn't. My job was making hundreds of decisions every single day, and one bad decision could cost you thousands. Let me show you what a normal Tuesday was like for me, okay? So you wake up at 2 a.m. Most people think waking up at 2 a.m. is crazy. I disagree. The worst feeling isn't being tired. The worst feeling is wondering if the car you didn't inspect would have made you $3,000. So for me, the drive, I drove from Cedar Rapids all the way to Milwaukee Tuesday mornings. It's about a 4-hour drive. On the drive, I'm not playing checkers. I'm definitely playing chess. This is a huge part of what being a successful car buyer like really took. Okay, so you need to think about like the primary inventory at the car lot that you mainly sell for and work at. Okay, what I mean from that is, do you have enough cars at this very moment to where you don't necessarily need cars, or are you back on the road and it's your first week, of many, and you need to go ahead and get some cars. The thing about knowing your inventory is, what if we sell 5 cars today on Tuesday? Okay, you're not going to get the cars that you buy in tomorrow's sale, which is Wednesday, back to the lot until the following week. Okay, so you need to make sure that you manage that gap. Okay, it really dictates how aggressive you're going to be in the ring tomorrow. So when you are thinking about inventory, you need to forecast things the best that you can. And what I mean by like forecasting is you need to be able to know what days you've been selling your cars like the most on. So if you're there on a Tuesday, okay, and you normally selling cars on like Thursdays and Fridays, obviously typically that's when people get paid, okay? And you sell 2 cars on Thursday and then you sell 2 or 3 more cars on Friday. You really need to try and calculate and try to manage things the best that you can. Buying too many, in my experience, it's not a good thing. There was one time where I spent literally $130,000 one day at auction, and I bought 13 cars. We made a lot of money off of most of those cars, but there were some of those cars that I did not need to buy. Okay. On this trip, on this drive, you're thinking about so many things. So you're thinking about what didn't go well last week that you want to turn around this week. Okay. What are some hunches that you've kind of been having about certain things, and playing those out and that sort of thing. So, at this point, I get to Milwaukee. I've been awake for 4.5 hours, and I still haven't had the opportunity to make a single dollar. It's just the reality of it. All right, so it's 6:30. You're at the auction, okay? Amateurs wander, okay? The professionals already know where they're going. So like throughout this process and you're test driving all of these cars, you need to understand that the person who did the condition report is just trying to do their job, okay? And a car that has a really high condition report does not automatically mean that it's a super good car, okay? I definitely see smaller auctions be more partial to sellers. I don't think that really happens too much at ADESA and Manheim. But even at ADESA and Manheim, I mean, everybody has a bad day. Everybody has a bad day. So at that point, you are test driving cars, you are basically working from about 6:30 a.m. all the way until 4 p.m. And the reason why you go that early is, like many reasons, like I said, you just don't want to have any sort of regret. But the thing is that every single auction on the day before their sale is when they are going to add the most cars per hour to what they have going on. That is usually the case. So what you want to try and do, on my mentality, was to knock out all of the cars that I had in my watch list. Okay, every single one. Okay, because you know when you're going through and you're bookmarking cars, you may bookmark something that you really have a lot of interest in, but then you also may bookmark a car that's like, you know what, I don't normally go for those, or that's a little bit higher mileage than what I would normally buy on that model and that year, etc. But I'm just going to go check it out anyway. And you really need to be able to slow down when you're looking at each and every car that you're looking at. Okay, you can't be biased. You can't be excited from a last car and then mess up your routine on, like, you know, like the 11th car or whatever. So you really have to stay disciplined when it comes to that. Now, I just had a little pocket scanner made by Maverick. So you can get it at Harbor Freight. They're usually around $45. I have lost, I think, a total of 3 of them in my 1-year career. One day I lost 2 in one day. It was bad. So, anyways, so you get through all of that. You get through your watch list. And the thing that you really got to be paying attention to is you always want to be going by the detail line and, the detail, the cars that come out of detail, because the cars that come out of detail are going to be the ones that are going to be ready to go on spot. Okay. And ideally, what you would really want to do is get through your watch list. Okay. And then be to the point where you're ready and waiting for cars to come out of detail. Okay. Now, I always, I'm very, very, I'm very basic when it came to like my lunches. I would literally go to Jimmy John's and I would get just a regular, just a sub, and come right back to the auction. It's important, if you have been at the auction for probably like 3 or 4 hours already, and you get away from the auction temporarily, because it's just like with anything, you're around something for like 4 or 5 hours, you're going to be looking at some things and you're going to have seen it so many times, and you're not going to realize kind of what it is and the significance of it. But then when you come back from lunch, you'll kind of have that fresh perspective of like, oh wait, man, that RAV4 over there is a V6, The RAV4s with V6s always sold really well for me, especially if they were all-wheel drive. Like, they would usually sell within like 2 or 3 days. Okay. So fast forward, you're done with the day as far as test driving goes, and it is 4 p.m. Okay. Most people think the day is over. It's not. Okay. So you get back. It's time for the homework. It's time for getting through the rush hour traffic, checking into your hotel, and then going through your whole list and getting a kind of a run list, ready, and making sure that you are going through each car. In our instance, in our case, it was finding out and these were what I employed. My employer, the guy who I was working for, was pretty loose. I think he kind of saw that I was trying really hard and I was always refining things and doing things a little bit better. But what I eventually arrived on was knowing what the MMR of the car is, okay, and then knowing what the range is, okay. You need to take off your costs, your, whatever reconditioning it is, transport. If you use a floor plan at all, there is financing costs. If you have a car for 3 weeks, there's more financing costs as if you have a car for 6 weeks. And then the other part that is really, really important that I think some people like maybe overlook is they don't actually pay enough attention. They don't pay enough attention to what they could sell the car for. Okay. And I think that's really important. I think sometimes people think, oh, I could sell that for this amount of money. Well, really? I mean, is that really exactly, what you think you could sell it for? Or does it need four tires? And does it need, these other things? This is actually, that's going to cut into your margin. So this would probably honestly take probably another 2.5 to 3 hours. And throughout this whole process, if you're in the summer, you got to make sure you're managing it. You really got to make sure that you're getting plenty of sleep Monday night, which in my case I wasn't able to really do, but we managed. But ultimately, this is just what one day in the life of an auction buyer looks like. Go ahead and stay tuned for the next part of the series if you want. It's only going to get juicier from here. So thanks for tuning in to Auto Auction Maverick.